Hermeneutic reading, an introduction. Hermeneutic reading. Go ahead, you can pronounce it. Hermeneutic. 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 Say it. Hermeneutic. Hermeneutic just means interpretive. And it comes from the Greek. Hermes is the Greek messenger god. See, Hermes is carrying a message there, and he's got wings for flying and a horn for calling attention, and he flies and brings messages to people. So that's one way to think about and remember what hermeneutic means. It comes from the messenger. In hermeneutic reading, we think of reading as an interpretive process. That's all that hermeneutic means. When we read, we interpret. More on this later. Now, how do you read? So here's a multiple choice. Select one answer. How do you read? Which comes first? Your understanding of the parts of a reading, words, sentences, paragraphs, etc., or your understanding of the whole of a reading, your understanding of the reading as a whole, the main idea of the whole reading, or something else. Another one. Select one answer. How do you read? Well, you might answer, what type of question is that? Or, well, I just read. Or, I start at the beginning and I read until the end. Or, all of the above. Or, none of the above. So, think of your answers to those questions, and we'll wait a little bit till we answer them. In the meantime, does this sound like you? When you read, you want to understand everything that you're reading. So, you start at the beginning of a reading, like in this particular reading on the mindsets, which we'll be reading in class. And you start at the beginning and you read the article line by line, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, until you get to the end. And you're probably thinking, if I don't understand something, well, I keep going on in the hopes that it'll clarify itself. And that way, if I start from the beginning and read until the end, I don't miss anything. Now, why might you do this? You might think that reading is a process that builds up little by little, that the understanding of the reading just kind of builds up part by part by part by part. You might think that you have to understand all of the parts of the reading in order to understand the whole of the reading. You might think that your understanding of the whole of the reading comes at the end of the reading. So therefore, you have to plow through the reading until you get to the end, because it's at the end that you understand it. And if I don't understand something, well, if I keep reading, it'll clear up my understanding, because the understanding will come at the end. So it's kind of like I read the sentences, the paragraph, the sections, and everything, and keep reading until I get to the end, and I'll have a sense of the whole. But this belief, and all of these beliefs, is fundamentally incorrect. It is an illusion that we first understand the parts of a reading before we get an understanding of a whole of the reading. In fact, both are true. We really have to have an understanding of a reading before we can understand the parts of a reading. And that sounds weird. How is that possible? Well, read this passage, for example. Reading clearly doesn't work that way. Now let's look a little bit more closely at this sentence here, this part of the sentence. What do you notice? Well, you might notice that this letter here, the I in reading, and this letter here, the E in doesn't, are virtually the same. Yet we don't see them as different. When we read reading, we just read reading clearly doesn't. We don't see that as an E, we see it as an I. We don't see that as an I, we see it as an E. Why don't we see that as an I? If we had to read the word reading, each letter, each part first, we'd go R-E-A-D-E-N-G. Reading. And we would never get to reading, or at least we'd go R-E-A-D-E-N-G. Oh, there's something wrong there. Maybe it's reading. No, we don't do that. We just see the word reading. We just see the word doesn't. We use our understanding of the whole of the word to understand the part of the word. And that's exactly the opposite of the way we normally think about it. We normally think that we've got to understand all the parts before we understand the whole. Look some more. What do you notice here? Well, reading clearly doesn't. We see that the C and the L in clearly looks very much like the D in doesn't. Yet again, we don't make the mistake. We say reading clearly doesn't. We see clearly. We don't see that as anything other than a C and an L. And we see that CL or that D as a D. If we had to read the parts before the whole, would we read that as a D or a C or an L? Clearly, the whole word clearly is what gives us the sense, the context of the word gives us the sense that that's a CL and not a D. How is that possible if the parts come first? So we don't first read all of the letters and then read the words. If it were true that we had to read all the letters before the word, we would never get to the whole word itself. We would go R-E-A-D-E-N-G, and we'd make a mistake. We don't make those mistakes. Clearly, our understanding of the whole is playing a role in our understanding of the parts, just as much as our understanding of the parts is playing a role in our understanding of the whole. This point is very important for reading papers. We use our understanding of the whole to understand the parts. It's true of words and letters, paragraphs and sentences, sections and paragraphs, and books and articles and the sections that make them up. Yeah, here's another example. Just read the sentence on the next screen. You ready? What was the sentence? Was it Paris in the spring? Well, no, it was actually Paris in the spring. The word the appears twice, but we didn't see that. Again, if we understood the parts before we understood the whole, we would read Paris in the spring. But we didn't do that. At least most of us don't do it when we see this. We see Paris in the spring. We ignore the second word because of what our knowledge, we have existing knowledge of phrases and words and sentences and what makes something meaningful, a sentence meaningful, and we use that knowledge to organize what we see. Our understanding of the whole, or the possibility of the whole here, plays as much a role in our reading the sentence as our understanding of the parts. In fact, the parts, the understanding of our whole structures our understanding of the parts. And of course, there's this. According to a research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and the last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. So, back to our first multiple choice. How do you read? Well, if you've indicated any of these here or all of the above, well, your answer probably should have been none of the above. How should you read? Which comes first, your understanding of the parts of a reading or your understanding of the whole of the reading or something else? If you said the first one, it's not that one. Your understanding of the parts of the reading doesn't necessarily come first, as we've seen. Our understanding of the whole influences the understanding of the parts. So is it the second one? Your understanding of the whole of the reading comes before your understanding of the parts of the reading? That's not true either. In fact, it's something else, and it looks more like this. While the parts of a reading create the whole, there's your parts, and they create the whole, it is equally true that our existing sense of the whole structures our understanding of the parts. It goes both ways. And that's what we call the hermeneutic circle. In the hermeneutic reading, neither your understanding of the parts nor your understanding of the whole comes first. They come together. Your understanding of the parts makes up your understanding of the whole, and your understanding of the whole informs your understanding of the parts, and it goes on and on. This is an important principle. We can't just read part plus part plus part plus part plus part to get the whole. We can't just read sentence plus sentence plus sentence plus sentence plus sentence equals paragraph, or paragraph plus paragraph plus paragraph plus paragraph plus paragraph equals section, or section plus section plus section equals article. or book. That's not how it works. Instead, for every part of a reading we read, for every sentence, for every paragraph, for every section, for every part, we must ask, how does this part affect our evolving understanding of the whole? How does this sentence affect my understanding of the paragraph? How does this paragraph affect my understanding of the section? How does this section affect my understanding of the article or the book as a whole? And that's at every point in time. And at every point in time, I ask myself, what my understanding of the whole is at this point of time. What's my understanding of the main point of this book or the main point of this paragraph, even though I'm not finished with the book or the paragraph or the sentence. And then I ask, and then I carry that understanding of the main point, the partial main point that I understand, the partial theme, the part of the overall thesis of the book, and I carry that into the next parts of the reading. And so it'll look something like this. We always have some understanding of the whole. It's just that whole evolves over time. It gets better and better and clearer and more differentiated and more integrated and more articulated. We have an understanding of the whole right from the time we read the title. We read the title, say the title of the book, Mindset. Well, that is a sense of the whole right there. The title's meant to represent the whole. This book is going to be about mindsets. And actually the title says Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. Now we know that the book is going to have something to do with mindsets and success and thinking, psychology or feeling or what have you. We have a sense of the whole right from the start. You don't have to wait till the end. It's right there. It's not complete, but it's there. And then we take that title, our understanding of the whole. Should we start reading right away? First chapter? I don't think so. Take the title, go to the back matter, read the back matter of the book. What does that back matter tell you? You've already had an understanding of the title. You got a sense that this book is going to be about mindset, say. And now I'm reading the back, and the back will tell me more. And what that back tells me is not just what's on the back. Those are the parts, more parts. I take the understanding of the whole, the title. I bring it to the back matter. The back matter is going to be some parts that I'm going to understand, but I'm going to use the title to understand those parts. Here's the title, Mindset. Then I read the back, and then the back matter updates and helps to clarify my understanding of the whole. This book is going to be more about mindset. It's going to be about other things as well. And then as I read the back matter and it changes my understanding of the whole, I bring that whole forward. And now I have maybe some more understanding, a clear understanding of the main themes. This book is going to be about mindset and about fixed mindsets and growth mindsets and how it affects schoolwork and my sense of self. This is what you've gotten before you've even read the first word of the first chapter. And then you take that, and where do you look now? Let's not start reading the first chapter. No, let's look at the table of contents. Get a sense of more of the whole of the thing. The table of contents is a part of the book. Well, read that part of the book. Read maybe the first paragraphs of different chapters. And then that will give you a clearer sense of the whole, of the main points, of the main themes of the book. Then maybe you're ready to bring those main points of the books, the chapters and the sections that you have an initial understanding even before you've read, and you bring that into the first chapters. You read specific paragraphs of the first chapter, and then those paragraphs update and transform your understanding of the whole so far. And then it continues to go until you read chapter and paragraph, and you get an increasingly elaborated understanding of the main points of the book, the chapters, the whole, etc. You bring that into the rest of the book, and it continues, and it never stops. Reading becomes a continuous process of linking parts to wholes, linking parts of a paragraph, the sentences to the paragraph, linking paragraphs to sections, linking sections to the article. You're going back and forth, not in a straight line. And you'll come to see why this is such a very important part of reading as we move forward. All of this points, of course, to excellence, which is what we're after.